Okay, hello everybody. This is my first time using what's called StreamYard. So I'm hoping that I'm now talking to people in Facebook, in LinkedIn, and on YouTube live. I'm also hoping that I'm talking to you on Instagram live. So if I'm talking to all of you, can you comment and let me know? Yes, Owen, I'm seeing you on Instagram, or I'm seeing you on YouTube or Facebook, or whatever you call it. What else do you think? Hey Heather, let me know. Oh, you're on Facebook. I can see that I am streaming on Facebook. That's great. Hello, we've got John, we got Elia, we got Liz. Hi Liz. Uh, Great. We've got some other folks as well. This is great. You do see me on Instagram. See you soon, John, as well, in another form. Um, Great. We've got wonderful bunch of people joined on Instagram for this very special mini webinar. I'm going to keep looking like this to the two cameras, be like I'm in a real studio, which is going to be fun. Tom Feeney's in the house. Jerry Ryan. Hi, Jerry. How's it going? Nice to have you here from LinkedIn. So we got people in from LinkedIn as well. Cindy is on Facebook. Great to see you, Cindy. We got Roisin. How's it going, Roisin? And we've got a bunch of people as well on Instagram. So welcome everyone to this mini webinar. I'll be going for the next 10 to 15 minutes or so. I'm going to be talking in this session about managing your mind. And in particular, what I want to do is offer you 5 different strategies that you can use to be able to change the way you feel and to work on your beliefs and mindset as well. So a lot of what I'm going to reveal today is not something that you might have heard of. Some of it you might have. But I want to offer you some more, I suppose, more advanced strategies on things you can do immediately to change the way you think, change the way you feel, and to, as I like to call it, to believe better. So welcome again, those of you on Instagram joining me, as well as those of you on Facebook and LinkedIn and YouTube, hopefully. If you are on YouTube, if you want to comment, say hello, that would be great. Just, oh, Roisin's watching on YouTube. Isn't this great? Tell you what, modern technology baffles me. By the way, have any of you used ChatGPT yet? Wow, that is scary in and how useful it can potentially be. So that's something I've been playing around with recently, and it is scary how good it is. So why am I here today? We're going to be talking about, as I said, 5 different strategies to manage your emotions, manage your moods, to be able to help you to challenge your beliefs and to be able to get your mindset ready. So if you are ready, could you comment ready either on Instagram or, thanks, Jason, either on Instagram. Thank you very much, Bella, to you too. If you are on Instagram, if you're on Facebook, if you're on LinkedIn, or if you're on YouTube, just say ready to go right now. That would be great. Heather is ready. Fantastic. Purely accidentally, Roshi. I know the feeling when it comes to technology. Tom's ready. Fantastic. Great. Roshin's ready as well. Wonderful. Jason's ready. Jerry's ready. Lorraine's all set. Fantastic. Welcome, Lorraine. Elia's ready. Excellent. All right, let's get started. So the first thing that we want to be able to do, Tom Photo's also ready, is find your brain gym. And when I say find your brain gym, what I mean is that in many ways, what we don't realize is that our brain is basically in many ways, a chemical cocktail, right? We've got all of these neurochemicals, which you probably heard about, things like, let's say, dopamine, noradrenaline. We've got serotonin, we've got oxytocin, we've got GABA, we've glutamate, we've got endorphins, we got endocannabinoids. There's all of these different chemicals that are being released. And primarily the neurotransmitters. So some of them are hormones and some of them are neurotransmitters. And the neurotransmitters are released whenever 2 neurons connect across synapses. So let's say whenever we have a thought, whenever we have a belief, whenever we take an action, pretty much all the time that we're thinking, both consciously and unconsciously, our brain is making connections. And so in order for us to be able to, what I call find your brain gym, it's about finding the times in your day that you deliberately work on generating the right kind of brain chemicals. So for example, dopamine is the chemical that's released whenever we're motivated, whenever we want to achieve something, whenever we take action. And in order to trigger the release of dopamine, we want to do things like setting goals. We want to challenge ourselves. We want to take on something new, do something novel. We want to learn something, right? All of those are the kinds of things that tend to stimulate the release of dopamine. Noticing the progress we're making, identifying milestones, and crossing off our to-do list. All of those are examples of things that stimulate the release of dopamine. Then for serotonin, which is more to do with how we feel secure and safe and confident, for that, what we would do is we would focus on a gratitude journaling. Well, what are 3 things that we feel grateful for? What are the things in our life that we have to feel happy about? What are the things that make us feel excited? Those kind of things. If we're trying to trigger the release of more, for example, oxytocin, we reach out and we spend time with people we like. We build trust. We watch movies where we connect with the main characters. Ever feel that you really get to know the main characters like you're your friends? Well, that's oxytocin at play. GABA is a chemical that's released that helps us to be able to relax. So again, what are you doing to be able to relax yourself? In other words, finding your brain gym means basically going, what is it that you can do every single day to cultivate the kind of brain chemistry that you need to cultivate? Just like you go to the gym, because by going to the gym, you're exercising your muscles, you're exercising the right chemicals in your brain by taking time in each day to get yourself into the right frame of mind. Oftentimes we expect or we hope that we're going to find ourselves feeling good. We're going to wake up on the right side of the bed. But my question to you is, what are some specific strategies that you can use daily that get you into the right frame of mind? And this could be a morning routine where you combine, goal setting, dopamine, with gratitude journaling, which would be, serotonin. But what are the kinds of things that you can do consistently daily that help you create the right kind of emotional resonance so that you're ready for the day? What can you do to make sure that you're feeling the way you need to on an ongoing basis? And again, that could be a morning routine. It could even just be a starting work routine. It could be a taking a break from work routine. It could be meditation or mindfulness. It could be NLP strategy. It could be whatever you want to make it. But give yourself a few minutes every day, just like you might go and exercise, and give yourself the chance to exercise, not just, your thinking brain, but allow you to practice creating the kind of chemicals that allows you to be able to do what you need to. Someone says, sometimes nothing helps. I try hard to remain happy, but end up sad. And that's okay as well. I mean, one of the problems is that when you try too hard to try to be happy, you actually feel bad about the fact that you're feeling bad. Maybe you resonate with that. And sometimes it's a case of let yourself have a few minutes where you just dwell on, feeling bad, listen to sad music, let yourself do that, but give yourself a time limit on it. And then sometimes it's okay not to be feeling super happy, but it's only it's what you do on a consistent basis that matters. So this isn't a case that, let's say, for example, you didn't exercise at all and you were being very lazy and then you worked out. Well, sometimes the workout's going to be extra hard and it's not going to be that beneficial for you. But on the other hand, if you're working out even a little bit every single day, you'll find yourself feeling less sluggish generally. So even if it is hard, the key is to do it consistently, and not with the goal that I have to feel good now, right after this exercise. Don't see it as a technique. See it as an exercise. And that's important to distinguish the two things. Don't see whatever it is that you do as a technique. See it as an exercise, something you do consistently that's removed from the actual, result at the end of it. So let me know if that makes sense. Hi, Maria. Carol says gratitude really helps develop a better mood, positive mindset, for sure, because what it does is it orientates you around to what you have to feel good about, what you to feel grateful for, which is really, really helpful and really, really useful. Some great stuff. Thank you very much for those. You're very welcome, Emil. The second thing is to leverage your wrongness. Now, when I say wrongness, that's not actually a word. For those of you who don't know me, I make up a lot of words, and that's one of the words that I make up. So leveraging your wrongness basically means look back into the past at times that you got things wrong, and start to realize that every single time you got something wrong, 2 things happen. Number one, you realize that you were not infallible. So you realize that you can't always be right in your thoughts. And that benefits you from the perspective that if you feel that things aren't going to work out, or you feel pretty bad about things at the moment, well, realize in the past you were wrong. So in the present, maybe you're wrong as well. So realize and recognize that you could be wrong right now because you've been wrong in the past. And then the second thing to take from being wrong in the past is the lessons. Every time you're wrong in the past, you learned a lesson. So I'll give you an example of this. A while back, I was about to meet a group that I had to spend some time with. And it was sort of a networking type event over the space of a few days. And in my head, I was not looking forward to it because I was thinking to myself, oh, these people don't seem like my kind of people. I was doing the classic fixed mindset of relationship, thinking, oh, I'm not going to get on well and blah, 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 blah. And after spending a few days with them, I realized I couldn't be more wrong because I really enjoyed spending time with them. And so it was only in me being able to acknowledge that I was wrong about the expectations I had that taught me the lesson, which means that, it's important for me to realize that I'm not as good a judge of character in this specific situation, because I tend to be good at reading people. But in this specific situation, I'm not as accurate as I might think I might always be. But the second thing it did was it allowed me to realize that I don't have to immediately assume just because I'm thinking negatively about something that it must be something that's going to go wrong. So it made me realize at that moment, actually, what I need to think about here is I could be wrong about the negative feelings I'm feeling right now because I was wrong before. So leveraging your wrongness means recognizing that you were wrong before. And as a result of that, that gives you valuable insights and valuable understandings that in the future, you might not necessarily need to make that mistake again, which is great. Studied NLP, try all the techniques, but I think it's been my habit. And so again, the key is, great to hear it, to make sure that you are practicing and executing it on a consistent basis so that it becomes second nature to you. All of these. You're very welcome, Jerry. Delighted that helps. Cindy, I'm very affected by the sun or lack of it. I feel less motivated in the clouds. Gratitude and exercise do help. Absolutely, Cindy. And that's also in extreme cases known as SAD, or sunshine affective disorder. So what's really important is, number one, try to, I suppose, replace the sun that you get, even get out into the clouds and try to get as much daylight as possible in the morning, first thing in the morning. But also try to recognize, right, because you're not getting that sun, what are the other ways that you can start to brighten things up? Even when you close your eyes, you can imagine yourself in a beautiful place. Maybe have your screensaver, your desktop, somewhere beautiful, very, very sunny, and that can hopefully help you to, again, compensate to some degree for the problems that you have. So we first talked about finding your brain gym, and we talked about leveraging your wrongness. The third thing I want to share with you is auditing your propaganda. Now, what do we mean by this? And this is a fun one. So the propaganda that I mentioned, and I mentioned this in my TEDx talk, is pretty much all of the negative sort of thoughts that we've been brainwashed with over the years. So someone has convinced us that we're this or that or the other. We're not good at this. We're not good at that. And over time, we built up all of these beliefs. And some of these beliefs are empowering and some of them aren't. When I say audit your propaganda, what I'm really talking about is identifying the limiting beliefs or the negative thoughts that you have, and recognizing and being aware of those. And then asking yourself the question, where did it come from? So whatever your beliefs is, let's say, for example, you believe you're not creative. Where did you get that idea from? Try to audit it. Try to understand exactly where you got this idea from in the first place. And the beauty of this is that when you start to audit your propaganda, in other words, when you identify the limiting mindsets or limiting beliefs you have, or the things that you think negatively about yourself, and you ask yourself, where did I get that idea? Very quickly, you start to realize, actually, this particular idea I have about myself, I don't have any real evidence that backs it up. I don't have a good argument as to suggest why this is something that's true for me. And so it's imperative for us to be able to start to audit those kind of things and realize, actually, when it comes down to it, you do not have the credibility behind these particular negative thoughts. And that's powerful, because it means if you don't have the credibility, you're less likely to believe it. You're more likely to be able to let go of some of these limiting mindsets when you audit your propaganda by recognizing that whatever sources that led you to believe what you believe, wherever you got your ideas from in the first place, actually might not be as reliable as possible. So maybe you got this idea about people because you watched some, you saw some clip on some social media channel, or you were watching, the news, and you got this idea from there. Or maybe your friends told you about some quality that you had, or maybe a specific friend or a teacher, whatever it might be. Audit your propaganda. You realize a lot of the negative thoughts that you think about yourself might not be as accurate as you might first think. So that's important to recognize. Question, how would you suggest creating important relationships with interested people? Well, there's really two things. Number one, identify what does an interested person look like to you, as in what are the kinds of qualities they have, what are the kinds of things that they're known for. Um, where do you find these interesting people is the second question. So what do you mean by interesting person is the first question to ask yourself. Where do you find this interesting people? These interesting people is the second question. And then how can you reach out to them and connect with them? That's the third question. And then when you form relationships with them, it's about you bringing it to the table. Interesting people are interested in interesting people. So be interesting. And that means being able to connect with people, being able to make people feel good, being able to generate the kind of relationships you want by asking questions, by making people feel good. I always say when you meet a person, find out what you have in common with them, find out what you like about them, and then find out how you can make them feel really good in the experience you have. So hopefully that answers that question for you as well. So we've talked so far about 3 key strategies. Find your brain gym, first of all. Second of all, leverage your wrongness. And third, audit your propaganda. And the fourth strategy is unpack your triggers. Now, what do I mean by this? Well, there's all sorts of things that can trigger us to feel a certain way, right? So we all, minded our own business, and all of a sudden we don't feel so good. And what we have to start to do is to recognize what our triggers are. What makes you feel bad? What makes you feel angry? What makes you feel stressed? What makes you feel worried? What makes you feel like you have a lack of confidence? Try to understand what are the kinds of things that trigger you to not feel as good as you want to. And then once you do that, once you identify what stops you from feeling good, what makes you feel bad in that moment, what you can then do is you can then decide to unpack the triggers. And by that, I mean, understand what is the story you're telling yourself that's cultivating that kind of feeling. In other words, we often have an association with a trigger where either we immediately associate a negative feeling with that trigger, like someone says a particular word or someone says something to us and we immediately react. Or there's a story we're telling ourselves where we interpret whatever the trigger is in such a way that it makes us feel bad. So we fail, for example, or we don't get the result we want. And then we turn that into a story, which means I didn't get the result I wanted. Therefore, I'm not good enough. And that becomes the story or narrative we tell ourselves whenever we don't get exactly what we want. So the key is to identify what are the triggers that make you feel bad in that moment and then unpack them. Is it a direct association? And if it's a direct association, what can you do to create the right kinds of emotions when you engage with that trigger moving forward? And if it's not necessarily automatic, if it's more a story you tell yourself, like it means something that makes you feel bad, then how can you change that story? How can you rewrite the story? Right? And it's easy to challenge a story. If you say, the fact that I didn't get the result means I'm no good. Well, what about all the other people that didn't get the result but are really, really great? And judging, for example, oftentimes we judge ourselves a lot worse than we judge other people. So, in businesses, for example, a lot of times I come across teams where one person feels they're the, imposter, the whole imposter syndrome notion. They're the imposter on the team and everyone else is great. But a lot of their colleagues are feeling the exact same thing and seeing them as being great. So it's imperative to recognize the stories we're telling ourselves and to challenge those stories. So far we've talked about finding your brain gym, leveraging your wrongness, auditing your propaganda, unpacking your triggers. And the final fifth strategy is known as emotional granularity. And this is a strategy which is basically something really helpful when it comes to identifying what emotions you're feeling and being able to label them as specifically as possible. And the way this works is that the more that you can label specifically what your emotions are, the more accurately you can label the emotions that you're feeling at any moment in time, the more your brain understands conceptually what's happening in terms of your body, or it can give you the resources that you're looking for at that moment in time. So emotional granularity works by identifying very specifically what is the emotion you're feeling at this moment in time. And once you identify what that emotion is and you're able to describe it specifically, then your brain has more information that allows you to be able to regulate your system accordingly. It's very, very powerful. Simply, once you name it, you game it. Once you label it, you gain a sense of power over it. So I very much recommend using emotional granularity. And the way to do it is just go, what am I feeling right now specifically? So you don't go, I'm feeling bad. Specifically, what's the kind of bad feeling that you're feeling at that moment in time? The more specific, the more granular you are. That's why it's called emotional granularity. The more you'll get a very accurate concept of exactly what you're feeling in that moment. So once again, just to very quickly run over what we talked about in this mini webinar. We talked first of all about finding your brain gym. Create a set amount of time a few minutes every single day where you deliberately do the right kinds of things to cultivate the right kinds of emotional states, to generate the release of things like dopamine and serotonin and GABA, the kinds of chemicals that will allow you to be in the best state possible. And don't do it so that you'll feel good afterwards. Do it as a habit. Right. So just like you would go to the gym and you don't always, lose weight after going to the gym necessarily, but it's the long haul. It's the compound interest of spending that time regularly. Do the same thing for your mind, and you will find yourself benefiting as a result. Second of all, leverage your wrongness. That means go back and remind yourself of things you got wrong about in the past. What lessons did you learn from that? And also, the fact that you were wrong about those means that maybe the negative thinking that you're thinking of right now, maybe you're wrong about that as well. That's also important. Audit your propaganda was number 3. That means identify the limiting beliefs you have and start to go back and trace back where these ideas came from, what TV show, what news, what social media post, what friend, a well-intentioned friend sometimes, what teacher, who gave you these ideas. And once you identify who gave you them, you can realize, well, maybe they're not as accurate as you once thought that they were. Then there's unpack the triggers was number 4. This is identify what triggers you to feel a certain way and either, create emotions whenever this trigger happens, if it's automatic, or if it's connected to a sort of a belief or story you tell yourself, whenever it occurs, then challenge that story and start to notice the holes in that story and change the story to something more empowering. And then finally, emotional granularity. Right? Try to identify specifically what is the emotion that you're feeling. Try to label accurately. And when you do, you'll find yourself a lot more empowered as a result. So that's all for me for now. We're going to be doing part 2 of this same time tomorrow on wherever you're watching it right now. I really hope you enjoyed it. I really hope you found it useful. Please do leave some comments wherever it is, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, or LinkedIn. If you found this useful. And tomorrow we're going to be looking more so at how to manage, I suppose, your habits and your focus. So I'm going to be sharing with you if you want to change your habits or if you want to master focus, we're going to be doing some really cool things. Again, if anyone wants to go deep in this and you're able to join us, we've got a few tickets left, but we are close to selling out. owenfitzpatrick.com/seminar for the seminar in Dublin, April 21st to the 23rd, 2023, the center of beautiful Dublin in Ireland. I cannot wait to get home. I'll be spending 3 full days with you there for those of you who can make it. But for the rest of you, thanks very much. May the force be with you. I hope you found this useful, and I will see you soon, and I will answer any questions you have tomorrow. Thanks very much. Be well. Take care. And I'm going to see if I can end this broadcast properly. Oh, all right. Here we go. And here.